All right. We are back, my friends. Back from the Circa Las Vegas. Sean Kanaki by my side. Sean, we got a little week one and college football week two to discuss, my man. How the heck you doing so far? Tired yet?
Wide awake. It's Vegas. You can't be tired in Vegas. That's not allowed. Although I have been known to take a mid-afternoon nap from here or there in Vegas occasionally. I did last year. It might happen on Saturday. We'll see.
Yeah. I think you might have had a little bit of a long night last night, but that's okay. But hey, man, we got some more great guests coming on. We expect Tony Gordon. We expect Jeff Fenton, Las Vegas Chris. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about college football week 0, my man. We got a couple games this weekend. Is there any angles that you want to touch on for this weekend?
Well, it's coming up quick, and we're going to be watching some of it from the pool, which should be fantastic. There are a couple games that obviously are of interest. The big one, which is the ACC game with Florida State and Georgia Tech, kicking things off. I believe it's 9 a.m. Vegas time. Oof, that's gonna be a rough one to start the season off. But that's really the only big game on the weekend, right? You got a couple other interesting week 0 games coming up, but that's the one that you're kind of focused in on for me. I think there's some opportunities there. I do kind of like that Montana State New Mexico game. I think New Mexico could actually boat race that squad, obviously coming up. Line's 13.5, and you don't usually think of New Mexico as boat race, but
maybe
they certainly picked up the pace a little bit last year versus the old kill the clock analogy with him. But I think that's got some possibility too. I might be laying some points with New Mexico. That's really the only play I'm considering. But the game that everybody wants to watch is that Florida State Georgia Tech kick off the whole season, week 0, 9 a.m. Vegas time, noon out on the East Coast, and getting everything rolling in about 2 days, less than 2 days. It's Thursday. Forget what day it is when you're out in Vegas too.
I'm really excited to get things rolling here. I like a little bit about Georgia Tech. The one thing I like about Georgia Tech is the fact that they haven't scored less than 21 points all year last year. Okay. Less than 21. So they played Georgia last year and scored 23. They played at Clemson last year and scored over 21 points. So now they're playing on a neutral. And I know it's in Dublin. You're not sure about the field. Notre Dame was able to put up a lot of points last year. The weather looks okay. It might rain a little bit in the morning. It's always gusty winds. But I think that Georgia Tech puts 21 points up. A lot of the sharp money came in on Georgia Tech, right? So it was a 13-point spread for Florida State. And now the sharp money that came in kind of got down to 10.5 range. I think there's some money buying back on Florida State right now. But in my opinion, I'm going to play it a different way. I think that they do get to 21 points, and I'm just not sure with a DJ Uiagalelei new offense for Mike Norvell. I think they could be a little bit shaky, but more importantly, they only returned two or three starters on the defense. I think the defense is going to be a little discombobulated. I know their defense was awesome last year, but Mike Norvell plays fast normally. He didn't as much last year because his defense was so good, so he slowed it down. But in general, he plays fast, which could put up some points for Georgia Tech, Sean.
Well, I think you got to remember, you got to look a little bit at how those games get played, right? Georgia Tech is ground heavy, right? I think they were 23rd last year in rushing yards per game, so obviously they're trying to drive the ball on the ground to lead that offense through. Putting up 21 points a game, like you said, yeah, they put some up against Georgia, but it certainly wasn't early, right? It was a little bit later where they got some things through against Florida State. I think the issue is going to be for them is that Florida State, even with new guys coming in on defense, they're still going to have a superior force in the trenches there against them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think. So if Georgia State's going to find a way to push things through, they're going to have to do a little bit more through the air than they've done in the past, especially against a team like Florida State. And you mentioned, DJ, and I still, after 4 years, can't pronounce his name, Gunbowale. He's still played for big programs. He's been in big offenses. He's been in some big spots. Hasn't really succeeded. This isn't one of those big spots. This is a team
just
where
call him DJU if you can't do it.
DJU. I like that. So this is a spot for him, right, where he's going to be learning the offense. He's going to get a chance against the defense, and certainly not to the caliber he's going to be facing for most of the rest of the year. I think he's going to come out and want to have something to prove in the new spot, and I think Mike Norvell wants to go out and make a statement right away. So I'm not touching it for the same reason you said, because I think Georgia Tech could find a way to get some points up on the board. if that's the angle you like, I almost would rather take the over and think Georgia Tech maybe puts up 24 or 28 and then Florida State gets to that 40. But I think Florida State is scoring often in this game. But again, I'm not taking an angle on this. It's so tough without data with the way the transfer portals are and the way recruiting is and the way everything shifts around in college. You have to look at it as kind of a whole and one game analysis without having seen either team play anybody of value is really, really tough to do for me. So I can't look at this game with the new system and all the changes on defense. But I really want to jump on that game, even though it is the biggest one on the docket. That's why I'm looking at New Mexico. I think that's the only play I'm going to be able to do. So that's my week 0 analysis for the most part. I'm going to sit back and watch and enjoy. But I can't touch that early game.
Yeah,
more interesting, I'm trying to say, is that Delaware, if you want to look at the Hawaii game, Delaware State, their plane's not even working. They're trying to figure out how to get over there, and the spread keeps climbing in that game. The total's like 55.5, but now it's like, well, did they score any points? I mean, I don't even know how they prepare for Hawaii. Hawaii's supposed to be a pretty good team, but I don't know much about Delaware State. I'm staying away from that one. Yeah, in the New Mexico one with Montana State, it feels like it's too much now. I mean, this is the biggest spread a FCS has ever been over an FBS in any situation, really. So I'm like, what the heck has happened? I'm a little bit worried. I'm almost thinking, gosh, I might just have to play New Mexico State just based on freaking principle here, man. I looked into Montana State. They lost some guys to the transfer portal. They got an okay quarterback, and they did really good last year. But I think New Mexico knows, and Bronco Mendenhall is a new coach there. He's going to slow it down a bit like he did at San Diego State. I could see myself buying this. I'm wondering if sharp money's already coming in on it. I'm still waiting a little bit. I'm going to talk to a few other guys, but I'm very much leaning in that direction. What about SMU, Sean? SMU is going to Nevada, and they're laying a pretty hefty 24.5.
They are laying a pretty hefty 24.5, and maybe that's a little bit out of conference respect for where they ended up here. Mostly it's out of lack of respect for Nevada's defense. They gave up 34 points a game last year in a pretty weak conference. Couldn't do anything on the ground. 187th in rushing, 210 overall in passing, and 190th third down efficiency, which put them in 29% range, which obviously isn't going to get it done. And I don't think they made enough changes in the offseason to really make a difference out there. SMU boat raced some teams that were a little bit down last year. Navy didn't have a great year. They were able to get a big win at Memphis on the road toward the end of the year. So I think that they're ready to go. But again, with the transfer portal and changes coming in, it wasn't something that I wanted to touch here, especially not at a 24.5 point spread. I'm going to jump back real quick to your Hawaii and Delaware State. If you look at that one as we're trying to get in. So the over-under is sneaked up now to 56.5, but the spread is 40.5. So I guess the bet is, do you think Hawaii is going to win 55-0 or 35-0 and figure out which way you're going to end up? Because Delaware State might kick a field goal, get in once, right? The way that's looking, I think you're almost better off taking the under, hoping Hawaii's defense sits down and they win 50-0 to call it a day. But again, week 0, I'm sticking with my New Mexico, like you said, not out of principle. I just think Bronco Mendenhall coming in, they're still going to try and slow that game down. 13.5. It's a crossover, but Montana State coming in from FCS, still playing a D1 program. There's still D1 athletes down there. Might not be the best D1 athletes in the world, but 13.5 is just too much for me. I got to ride New Mexico there.
Fair enough, Sean.
I also wonder about the week 1 game, the big Notre Dame versus Texas A&M game. Notre Dame took some injuries to their offensive line, but they're still Notre Dame. But the big thing about this is Mike Elko, because Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame's new transfer quarterback, was the quarterback for Mike Elko at Duke. It's almost a good storyline that really going on to this game. But in this situation, even though the offensive line is banged up, I feel like I side with the kid. I sided with the kid in this part because he really wants to beat his old coach, and it's not like his old coach is going to feel good about beating his kid. It's just one of those mental situations where I think you're going to get a great game from Riley Leonard. I know it's at Texas A&M, but Texas A&M is a completely new system this year, and they lost some of their studs. They were a great recruiting school, but they lost some of their studs too. Not really sold on their quarterback over there. What about that game? Have you looked at it?
Yeah, real briefly. So, you take a look at Texas A&M as a program as a whole, and if, the pundits come in and say, okay, they're not a top 25 program coming into the year in the SEC with that grouping and that that home field advantage, there's probably something going on there. And for me, as I kind of look at it, I don't see any reason why Notre Dame can't go into that stadium and win that game. 3 points for Texas A&M at home against a solid system and ranked team. I certainly think that the home field advantage is being overweighed there. Neutral field, you're telling me this is a pick'em? I don't think this is a pick'em on a neutral field. I would take Notre Dame on a neutral field any day of the week. So for me, getting the 3, I'm going to take it and probably put some money on the money line here as well.
Yeah, I agree with
you 100%. One game that I do not like, the away game, and this is Miami. With all the hype they're coming in, they're going to Florida. I think Florida's being very disrespected this year. I know Graham Mertz had the yips when he played for our Badgers, John, but this is a different situation now. Being that, he's gonna he kind of got better last year. He had a 73% completion percentage. Now his ADOT was only 6.4 or something like that. But it's just one of those situations that I think that they're the ones being hunted. They're the ones that all the people are fading. And then Miami's got the pressure because they're the ones that have spent all the money, paying everybody, their coordinators, kids. Imagine being in the locker room, thinking you're better than the linebacker that's making $500 grand this year, whatever he is, with all the endorsements and the actual NIL money he's allowed to get. I feel like Florida is going to make this a game, and now this thing's at the 3. And I'll admit that I took it at 2.5. Thought more sharp money is coming in Florida, and it hasn't. I'm really worried for Miami, and I do not like Mario Cristobal. He certainly has choked some games away in the past, Sean.
I think Florida as a whole for the season is underrated. They've got a brutal, and I mean an absolutely brutal schedule. But I think they're a better team than people are giving them credit for. They had a solid recruiting class coming in, one of the top ones in years in Florida. And I think as a whole, they could sneak up and hit that season win total even with this brutal schedule. That being said, in the first game against Miami, I don't have a play here. Looking at it, I certainly think the biggest difference here is Florida's defense is really what let them down last year. They were fine on offense, and I think their offensive system looks good. But I'm concerned about the defense bouncing back, so I am not gonna play it here, even at that small line at -2.5. I'm gonna stay away from this in a rivalry game to kick off the season.
Yeah,
man. I mean, it is one of those where you just wonder if Miami is for real and if Florida really should be favored. But I have to bet Florida. My power ratings say to do so. My power ratings do not have Miami much of a favorite. On a neutral, I probably have Miami maybe as a 1 to 2 point favorite. That's it. This is being played at the Swamp. I mean, such a tough home field advantage Florida's got in the Swamp. Those kids are going to be fired up for week 1. And I like playing the disrespected card, myself in these situations. The last one I want to quick cover with you is LSU versus USC. A lot of people are betting the over. A couple sharp people like the under based upon some of the new coordinators that USC got. USC got the coordinator from UCLA, and the not USC, LSU got the coordinator from, I believe it was Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State or Missouri. It was one of them. It was either Kansas State or Missouri, and USC got the coordinator from UCLA. So a lot of people are thinking it's going to be more under, but this spread keeps going up. This total's now all the way up to 64, Sean. Any thoughts on the total?
I really think that LSU is going to put up some points in this game. I still don't trust USC, even coming into the Big Ten, that they're going to switch over the defense. It's never been Lincoln Riley's MO to really bang things out on the defensive end, right? He's been winning games with offense his entire career, and I don't think that's going to change walking in. LSU certainly is able to put up yards. Obviously, with Daniels being gone, we'll see what happens with the quarterback situation. But I think the system is good enough where they're going to be able to go out to, they're going out to USC and score some points. So if I had to play, even though it's all the way up to 64, I think this is a game that could see 1,000 total yards in offense without blinking an eye. So if somebody comes out there and they put up 1,000 total yards, they're probably scoring 65, 70 points in this game pretty easily. So haven't played it yet, haven't pulled the trigger. I'm actually kind of hoping this comes down a little bit, but I might be on the wrong side of that. I'm hoping to get this down just under 63, but with a week to go, it might not go that direction. So I'm probably not playing this, but I certainly think this could go over.
Yeah,
I took over 62. I'm considering a buyback. It's going to have to go at least 65 in the buyback. I'm on the over still. I think the defenses still have to figure it out, Sean. Well, that's all we have for college football week 0 and week 1. We'll talk more college football tomorrow, but now we're going to go on a 5-minute break and then bring on Jeff Benson from Circa Sports. All right. We are back, and we have the Director of Operations at the Circa Sports, Mr. Jeff Benson. Jeff, how you doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Everything Circa Sports. That's the important thing. And I got some questions lined up for you because I find it so interesting how you're the Director of Operations at a sports book. And the questions I have is kind of like what kind of audience you want to cater to at Circa Sports is probably the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say obviously, we're catering right now based on our approach to kind of the more rec plus, semi-professional, professional type of player, similar to what, Pinnacle or Prime Sports is doing. I think for us, with our low hold, high volume model, we're kind of targeted or focusing on players, who are price sensitive. And, I think we found a lot of success with that in Nevada. Nevada's, a jurisdiction that's been around for a long time. I think the players are really educated here. And our goal is obviously to educate players, in our non-Nevada states as we look to grow and expand. And, I think with a lot of the tools that are out there and the content in the space and things like that, when you think about, unabated and circles off and just this movement, for, the education of the better, I think you're going to find customers in the long run who ultimately will focus on price. I think now people are pretty price inelastic. If they don't really care whether they're laying -40 or -50, when you're talking about like a bet on a money line or something like that. And I think, price really matters in this industry. And, when you look at how people wait 2 hours in line to get gas at a Costco, but then they willingly lay 10 or 15 cents worse, it's kind of interesting to see. So I think, obviously, kind of our meat and potatoes menu and our approach to big limits and things like that has targeted, a more non-recreational customer. But, the goal for us is obviously to take as many bets as possible. And our hope is to grow our menu in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
That's great growth for the Circa is awesome. You got to come to Arizona, man. You got to come to my side of town, man. That would be great. I would love to have another book in Arizona, especially a book like the Circa that has such great limits and just.
We're excited about and exploring. A couple of years. In more than 5 states we currently operate in, which are Nevada, Kentucky, Colorado, Iowa, and Illinois.
Well, what's it take to move a line?
This is Sharp Book. You take Sharp action. Now, I guess maybe describe a situation where, like, let's just say the numbers right. You got a lot of money. Maybe some of it's Sharp. Maybe a lot of it was public. Maybe it's a big game. Maybe it's a night game, Monday Night Football, something. And you're over invested on one side, so you're exposed on the other, but you kind of know you're right. Do you guys gamble a little bit on your side of things, just knowing that you shouldn't move the?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. A lot of it depends on who made the bet, how we have them profiled, what the limit is, where we are in that limit progression. Is it early in the week? Is it at post? There's a number of different factors that go into it for our risk team in terms of, figuring out when they want to move a number. But, for us, obviously, we're doing our best to manage risk in the most appropriate way. And I think we have the best risk team in the world. So, as we see the bets come across, as new information, whether that's injuries, what the market thinks, what sharp guys think, certain releases, from different groups in the betting industry. There's a number of different things that can ultimately end up moving the line. So, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. It's like I said, every bet that we take in every situation is different. We'll react to the bets as they come across and ultimately kind of figure out how we want to position ourselves. So, generally speaking, you want to take a sharp guy lays, 7, somebody who has market influence, somebody you respect, maybe you go 7.5, and then you try to write back, 2 or 3 bets on the other side at, plus 7.5, so that you have a position on the favorite. Basically you want to hook to the guy that made you move the bet. So that's obviously kind of, a granular overview. But even when you like open games, if you open 7, they lay 7, maybe the limit that you're going to close in is, 100,000 and the opening limit is 5K. Maybe you go from, 7 to 8, you test the waters, the next bet's at 8, maybe you go, 9, 9.5, you want to then see some dog money. And, it's just kind of a yo-yo effect in terms of trying to get to the right price as quickly as possible. So ultimately, you want to use your sharp guys, the guys that move the market and have an understanding of what the number should be, and then ultimately try to get to that true price as quickly as possible.
Kind of let it massage
itself, the market work itself off. Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, how often do you get middled, like by these sharp people?
I think that's probably something that other books are more worried about. I think a worse situation is not moving the price strong enough and then just taking, a boatload of bets on one side. For us, obviously, if you take a bet at 7, you go 9 and it lands 8, it is what it is. I think you have to, if you're being so defensive about moving your numbers, you're ultimately going to end up taking way too many bets on one side. I think in the price discovery process, moving to try to find resistance at certain numbers based on the information that you're getting, I think that's the most important thing. And, if you're a market maker like us, getting middled, particularly at lower limits early in the price discovery process, it's really de minimis in the long run. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really just about getting to the right price as quickly as possible. And if you have to throw out some of those early bets in terms of getting middled, then so be it.
What do you think about these other books in states that are maybe higher taxed, deciding to try to put a little bit more on the customer? I know DraftKings had that one big announcement. I think they retracted that mistake, but I do see in other markets them sit out -120s, -115s, a little bit more than other markets. What do you think about that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, twofold. I think I'm obviously not, somebody who's very critical of a lot of the recreational books, for those that follow me on Twitter. And, I'm outspoken to what some of their business practice are. I would first start the conversation and say, at the end of the day, a lot of the blame and the onus for this falls on the regulators. The goal with everything that regulators should be doing is bringing all of the taxable revenue and all of the bets from the offshore market onshore. And by doing that, you have to have remote registration, remote funding, favorable market access, low taxes. You have to be doing things to incentivize shops to open and players to make their bets, at these regulated books. And, when you have, taxes that are through the roof, or, market access fee that, really only like the big 4 huge books can pay, the competitor ultimately gets a lesser or a worse off product, and operators are forced to raise their price on certain markets to combat this taxable rate. So I thought what DraftKings did was, from a PR perspective, a disaster. If the end goal is the same, that we have to make more from our consumers, I would say just hiding the tax and or the surcharge and doing it in one-way markets, or making money line splits like a penny or two worse, things like that. That's not as perceptible to the average gambler. I thought that was the much better route to go. Now they just come out and say, we're going to do the tax surcharge, get all this blowback, negative PR. Then they try to unwind that back, and then they just end up doing the same thing in terms of making, these touchdown markets, the money line splits, props, significantly worse than what they were, and passing that along to the consumer. So kind of a head scratching PR approach, in my opinion, when ultimately, the end goal is going to be the same.
Yeah, 100%.
Scratching. It's such a turnoff to see that. It's like, seriously, guys. I mean, you trust people that do that? Well, man, let's talk about some fun stuff now. Let's talk about some fun stuff. And I'm looking at these numbers up here, the Circa 1,000,006, and I see 2,515 current entries. And in Circa Survivor, I see 5,744 entries. We have 6 million guaranteed in Circa Millions. We have 10 million guaranteed in Circa Survivor. Are we going to have some overlays here?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's first start with Survivor. Obviously we're guaranteeing 10 million. It's $1,000 an entry. You can have up to 10 entries max. Basically, in a nutshell, it's a traditional Survivor contest. You're picking one game, one team to win every week. You can't use that team again. Then obviously you throw in the wrinkle of the holiday weeks, which we do a separate week for Thanksgiving, separate week for Christmas. It's a great contest. The simplicity of it, watching the guarantee grow, from where we started to where we're at now. Year one, we guaranteed $1 million. At this point, we're 10x that. Just really cool to see the growth there. And, we just rolled out a documentary on it, all of those kind of things. Awesome to see. And then when you flip the script and look at the millions, also a great contest. It's a pick'em contest. It's something that you get to participate in all 18 weeks, regardless of how good or bad you are. And there's ultimately, like you mentioned, going to be an overlay. We guarantee $6 million there. It's a pick'em contest where you pick 5 games against the spread every week. Looking at the current overlay of almost 3.5 million, we didn't reach our goal last year. The way we're trending, we're certainly not going to reach our goal this year. So, if you're listening and you're kind of on the fence or torn between the two contests, I'd probably push it toward the million. You're going to get a little bit of plus EV in the sense that there's not going to be 6,000 entries in it. There's definitely going to be a little bit of dead money that, we got to, Derek's got to kick into the pool.
How many entries do you think?
I'd imagine we'd probably be somewhere between 5,000 and 5,500 entries. So there's a chance there's, $500,000 to $1 million worth of overlay for players, which is great from an EV perspective. But, whether you're good or bad at this contest, you have the ability to flip the script, go to the booby prize. You got 126 ways to win. When you think about quarterly prizes, quarterly booby prizes, full season prizes, it's just such a great contest. And it gives you, you spend $1,000 and you got something to do for the 18 weeks of the NFL season. So, you want to come out, you want to sign up with your dad, your brother, do a group entry, things like that, or even just do it on your own. I think we got the 2 best football contests in the world, and you can't go wrong with either one or both.
And there's no juice. There's
positive EV, no juice, no rake. So you're actually kind of sports betting in itself. You're trying on these quarterly contests. You're trying to win the big thing. So that's what's really cool about it, And if you are in one of those states that you're getting screwed over by books because the government's just so bad there, you can always do this. Fly into Vegas, get with a proxy. We use footballcontest.com. And, get in. You can find plenty of flights. There's a couple weeks left. We have plenty of time to get in. But our final question is, where do you see, or what is your vision of the future for sports betting with Circa Sports?
For us, I think, we've been in business 5 going on 6 years now. We just try to treat people the way we think they deserve to be treated. Matt Metcalf, who was our former director, he brought me aboard to kind of build out Circa Sports, run the front of house. He was a professional bettor who a lot of times got the short end of the stick when he went to the counter and, how operators treated him. So, I think kind of our approach to the industry is, treating everybody, equitable and fair, offering big limits and great prices. And, we believe that the low hold, high volume model can be the most profitable model, within the industry. So I'd say for us, the next 5 years, we're working on building our own tech in-house, modernizing a lot of the things on the app, continuing to add to our menu in terms of in-game props and derivatives, and then ultimately expanding to a number of other states outside the 5 that we're currently in. So, a good start here in the first 5 years, but certainly a long way to go to be a player in the national space.
Well, Jeff,
I would love to see you guys expand and go as far as possible. Thank you for having bringing yourself here, talking some sports, talking circus, talking about these wonderful contests. I'll be seeing you soon at the window.
Thanks. Good luck in the contest this year.
All right. Well, that was Jeff Benson, and he gave you all the
information that you need to know
to get into these wonderful contests. We're going to bring on another guest very shortly here, talking about more contests. Some of them might have won a few bucks in this situation here, and we
always love to talk to winners because they get to come back. They get involved,
and these guys will be here every single year now because
they're able to participate in the contest and place in the top 5 or possibly win it all. But speaking about winning it all, we have a guy here, Mr. Tony Gordon, that did win it all. And he is one of my friends. I ended up getting to know Tony over the years.
Great guy. He comes out here from California, Tony. How the heck you doing? How's your drive here, man?
I'm doing great, buddy, and thanks for having me, man. About 5-hour drive, wasn't too bad. Didn't hit any traffic, and made it to my favorite place in the world, right? Circa, right? Could it be any better? So, Yeah.
It is the best place in the world.
The best TVs, the best sports, the best gambling, the best
pool.
You know, you name it. You know, it is a new hotel. It's still new. It's like everything's fresh inside. You know, it's got the newest stuff. You got your big screen TV. You can watch the games, obviously from the room. You know, I just sit there and look down. You know, you got like 7 baseball games on. It's so cool that they do that, man. But I got a couple questions lined up for you.
You know, let's talk about how many entries do you usually get in? Is it kind of vary throughout the year? Do you also do some Survivor? How do you do it?
So Kiev, you know, I started playing tournaments, you know, these contests back at the Westgate in 2007. So it's been a long ride. But you know, when I first started, it was a $1,500 buy-in over at Westgate, and I just do the one entry. And it took, I cashed in 2018. So it was about 11 years before I finally got my t-shirt money back. And I call it t-shirt money because it was a $1,500 buy-in and they gave away t-shirts. So I have about 10 $1,500 t-shirts that I gathered over the years before I finally got paid back. So that was fun. But yeah, you know, I made it over here. You know, the Westgate started to kind of, go the opposite direction with buy-ins, and they started to take a rake in. Derek Stevens over here, being the guy of dreams that he is, building this, he started both the Survivor and the Millions, and the guaranteed money, and couldn't help but run over here and try to get into this one too. So,
man, I love it.
It's great hearing it. But what's even more cooler is how well Derek treats his winners, man. It's like open invite every single year. How's that feel?
Yeah, so you know, right when I won, you know, I became family, man. He gave me his phone number, you know, so you know, I can text him when I come over, and he's ready to see me. This is a family here. Once you be part of it, you'll know if you do. Everybody here treats you like they're your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, however your age is. It's an amazing place, and I don't think you're going to find another casino, sport book, anything like it anywhere in Vegas or anywhere in the country for that matter. So,
and that's the cool thing about it. It's not just winning;
it's just always being that winner later. It's not like a one-time deal. You get to enjoy the benefits from it for so many years. Well, what's your mindset like when you're approaching these weeks? Are you looking at it as soon as the lines come out on, what is it, Thursday morning for Circa Millions, or are you kind of just like
some more injuries coming out? How are you doing?
So, you know, the mindset when it comes to that. So, you know, you know, the years that I've placed, I've kind of like thought about it less and less about what the season's coming up. I try to take as little info as I can. It seems to kind of cluster and give me a lot of biases that I wouldn't normally have, you know, by taking a lot of the info. So I like to kind of wait until, you know, 2 or 3 weeks prior to the season where I can gather who's going to be on the field, who's hurt, who's not. And I get a more realistic vision of what's going to come during the season, rather than early on where I'm just sucking in info that could be false, could be real. You know, you never know. So, yeah. So, you know, the later on in the season gets, the more info I can consume, the more confident I feel on you know, some of the selections that I make. So.
That's good news.
That's a good way to do it. What about Survivor? Do you have a strategy? I mean, let's look at the per spread. I mean, Cincinnati's -9 against
Panthers. And to be honest with you, I don't like
it. I mean, Cincinnati doesn't start the year well. I'm not going to be on that. I can see a lot of people on that, and I would just laugh my butt off if they got burned. But of course, because I'll probably be in some sort of Survivor, if not in a couple in this one. But you know, it's just one of those. It's like a no duh thing. It's like, how did this happen? What's your strategy?
So, you know, I think I'm going to buy in probably for 3 entries this year. I've done it the last 2 years, and I'm going to tell you, it's a different skill set. Yeah. You know, there's no room for error in Survivor. You know, you can't just barely miss, you know, so that doesn't work. And, you know, I've relayed this on Twitter in the last 2 years that I've gone out by week 5, both years. So, you know, my skill set is not picking winners, it's picking spreads. But with that being said, there's no way I'm not getting in it. There's no way I'm not going to try to be part of it. And there's no way I'm not going to chase 10 million. So, you know, I'm going to approach it, you know, so you talked about Cincinnati here. And the funny thing is a lot of people are probably keying in on Cincinnati, but a lot of people are keying out of it because they think it's going to be the most popular pick. And they're afraid to take it because of that. Okay. Now for me, I kind of almost think you guys are overthinking it a tad. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Because you're going to find a lot of people that are hop in on these 2.5, 3.5 point spreads, which are close to coin flips. And you might be stabbing yourself in the gut a little bit by hopping in on some of these coin flip opportunities. So we'll see. I think that everybody wants to set themselves apart by taking a team that might be at the bottom of the barrel and trying to get them off their list early on. And I think that there's going to see a lot of people dying because of that.
Besides playing in
the contest, do you do a lot of week-to-week betting? Like, are you just an actual sports bettor too, or do you do some futures, like division futures or Super Bowl or anything like that?
So I grabbed a few futures when it on a couple teams for the season win totals. Coach of the year I grabbed. And yeah, as far as betting goes, I try to grab lines early on in the week, try to grab that value early on, and let it float the rest of the week. And if I have to play back on it, I do later on. But for the most part, I'm not a Sunday bettor. I'm not a Saturday bettor. I'm an early week bettor, and I'll play back if I need to. But as far as the futures goes, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm really heavy and I really like Seattle this year. Take it for what it is. So I hopped on a few futures that way with Mike McDonald's Coach of the Year. I hopped on Byron Murphy Defensive Rookie of the Year. So those are a couple futures I hopped on.
Well, that's awesome, man. It's great that you do some of that. And yeah, I try to hit the lines early. It's a good time to do it. Places like this don't have the bad limits. You can do it if you're putting a lot of money down. Although we don't care about anybody. Our bettors can bet $1, $10, $100. We're all on the same side this year. Or forever. We're always on the same side. We're always trying to beat the books. We're always trying to get the money. We know the books are always going to make money because there's juice and that they always do it. So I'm very similar to that, and buying back is an option. If it's past the 50, the 2.4% VIG, you got to be at least 52.4% on your sides, and the other side shows another 52.4% on your side, then that's a middle opportunity. And sometimes if you really trust the market and your numbers say middle, that's when you go with it. I think that's the time to do it. And that's going to be it's not going to happen every time. You'll get juiced out on one side,
but it'll happen enough.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. You got to take advantage of those opportunities when you can. That's what part of betting is. Try to find that value early. And if it comes out on your side at the end, then so be it. But, let's be honest here. If you're hitting at 55%, you're doing a real good job. So, if you can get up there higher and make some money, this, like any of the contests, betting, I like to tell you that these are marathons, not sprints. So you gotta go for a long term. If you're trying to short term something, good luck to you. It's you're gonna short term either kill it or you're gonna short term kill you. That's the way I look at it. So yeah.
Why don't you give
one pitch to everybody out there that's listening on why they should come to the Circa and sign up for these wonderful contests?
Okay, here's my pitch. First of all, if you want to be the man, if you want prestige, if you want prizes, you come to the Circa, okay? There's no bigger contest. There's no better contest. There's no richer contest in the nation, okay? So if you want the blue jacket, if you want to walk around and be the man and you want $1 million, then you got to come play here. That's the only place you can play, all right?
we always go. He's even too shy to wear his blue jacket. Don't act like he does. He's like, oh man, I don't want to wear the jacket. That's how Tony is. He's really down to earth.
Tony, thanks so much for coming on, man. We'll be having some drinks this weekend, and we'll be catching up very soon.
I look forward, Kev. Thanks for having me, buddy.
or light your cigarette or so very easy, 10, 15 minutes. Marco says hi. Let's go. If you could retweet it real quick, I'd appreciate it. What? If you could retweet the stream. It's I tag you on. Right. 7 seconds. Internet.
All right. We are back. Las Vegas. Chris is with us in studio. Chris, how the heck you doing, man?
I'm okay. I've been fighting Las Vegas traffic. I'm really sick of it.
Las Vegas traffic is brutal, man. They got too much construction at too often, I guess. I think everywhere is literally like that. Phoenix is terrible too, man. But you made it, and I really appreciate it. And we're going to talk some contests now. And I know you're a modest guy. I know you're modest. But I'm always going to say it. You're the best contest player that I've ever met. And it's an honor to have you.
I'm not buying you anything. Jesus, you're buying your own drinks.
I know, Jake. Okay, we'll get a steak later, though. All right. Anyways, let's talk about the Circa contest. I'm a little surprised looking up at the screen here. I'm only seeing 2,515 entries. I thought it was a little bit more last year. Is there going to be a big overlay?
They're running a little bit behind, but that has to do with the exact date range. You have a shorter month because of leap year, and also the last year's numbers would have included this weekend already, but they're still going to be about 10% under, and millions is going to be a big overlay. I think it's going to be by they'll be lucky to get, what do they need? They're going to be lucky to get 5,000.
They need 6,000 to have no overlay.
Yeah, I think there'll be a big overlay. Survivor will get there some way, somehow. They were way over last year.
Oh, absolutely. I think Survivor's going to get there. Already over 6,000. At least they're over halfway. We're still not halfway in the millions. The Survivor's just more popular, and there's just so many more opportunities for people to win a lot more money if you make it all the way to the end. But everyone's got their own personal opinions on Survivor. But let's talk millions here, Chris. You've been very successful in these things over the years. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but how do you have the mindset to do it? I mean, it's almost like you're on repeat. You do this a lot. What's it take, man? I don't know if there's a secret sauce, but if there's something you can tell us that could kind of help us strategize for this.
I think I had my last year was the first year I hadn't cashed in like 5 or 6 years. So I've been cashing consistently in contests. And last year I zeroed. And I think the one of the biggest reasons for failure last year was I was out of habit and routine. I think habit and routine are the most underrated qualities of success in a contest. If you're not doing the same thing every week, then there's just a different flow to things. And I found myself not able to get into a habit and routine like in previous years when I had better success. I just felt when I had better habits and better routine, that I was able to read the board better. I was able to understand what games to kind of stay away from better. I just feel like I went into a slump, and the balls just kept getting by me each week with everything I was trying, and I chalk it up to just not having my act together. But you have to have winners. It was an off year for my model, and that didn't help. I mean, you still have to pick winners.
Absolutely, and we had 1 year, big deal. You've had so much success over the years. I'm sure you'll get back on track, and having a model is important. I have a model myself. I'm always trying to tweak it and make it learn. Having algorithms, having power ratings, and kind of do a little bit of mix of both. You use a lot of data. We talk a lot about that. How much model do you put into a week
compared to like creative spots? Is it more like 50-50? Does creative kind of sometimes take over if you're in such a big letdown spot or just such a short week? Describe that a little bit if you can. I know it's a tough question, but see if you can answer that.
The only thing that seems to be tried and true is that I'm generally not going to go against my model, but I'm not necessarily going to go with my model, if that makes any sense. So, and you know, the other thing that I think I'm going to play fewer entries too. I played 3 last year. I'm going to go back to 2 entries, which is I had the previous years I'd never finished worse than 31st with 2 entries, and now I go up to 3 entries and I flame out. I'm going to go back to 2 entries, and I think you focus differently when you have fewer entries. I think you get a little careless with more entries, and I don't know that that's the answer you're looking for, but
no, that's fair enough. Less entries definitely help. I would suppose if I was to answer the question, I would say creative sometimes does take over my situation. My model might have a number that's a little bit off the spread, but the creative side is saying, well, they're only on 6 days rest. They perform poorly against the coach type of situation. So, you know, that's kind of the creative part that I focus in. Not sure if I'm doing it completely right. I've been positive over the past few years, so I've been fortunate. And obviously you have been very fortunate when it comes to that. So I guess that's the part that I would be curious on how you do your model.
I missed the question there.
So your model spits out a number. This spread should be 3.75, right?
Yeah.
The spread is 3. Yet it's such a bad spot for that team to lay 3 because they're on a short week, 6 days rest, and they perform poorly in cold weather.
Well, if you're talking for contests, I'm pretty much going to try to avoid the 3s. So I'm going to try to avoid that game. You know what? I'm not looking to be on games everybody else is going to be on, but by the same token, I'm not going to refuse to play them either. But as far as the model goes, if you always have to factor in you know, the exterior issues of situation, and that's something I've really learned last year, because what little success I did have last year, a lot of it had to do with situations in history. So I thought last year was an off year overall. When I think back on it, my closing line value was still great, but a lot of bad beats, a lot of variance against me. That's why I'm still confident things would be better this year. But it was kind of alarming, and I don't know whether you noticed the same thing last year, but closing line value didn't mean what it used to mean last year.
No, it did not. You know, it was something that it almost hurt us. I was like, wow, we have line value. It sounds like Sharp Money was on this, but maybe they're getting beat too. You know, it was an off year for sure. I think that I have to throw it away. Yeah, I'm not going to go by that last year. I'm not going to make any adjustments like you. I think I'm just going to do the same thing I have that's made me successful. The props saved me last year in the NFL. Some of the first half totals have saved me too. And, you know, I usually be creative when it comes to that. But, you know, contest-wise, hey, man, it's all up in the air. Sounds like you're going to do 2 Circa Millions here. Are you going to get in a Survivor, or are you getting any other contest?
I hope I don't get in Survivor. I didn't get in Survivor last year, didn't regret it. I hate that type of contest. I wish it was a point spread Survivor, then I would get in it. I hate that all 32 teams are not in play every week, and I hate that you can be in week 15 and play perfect ball and your 17-point favorite loses outright. So, I mean, there isn't, at least you have a more manageable range of variance when you have a point spread situation Survivor. But that's what there's more luck involved in Survivor than a point spread version of the same format. So it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it is definitely more luck. I mean, when you have situations, and I brought up the one last year when Jacksonville lost to the backup quarterback from Cincinnati, that really knocked a bunch of people very close to the end. You know, it was just really. I think it brought it from like 50, or it was like 50 or 60 people all the way down to like 10 or something. Maybe they were fortunate to not have Jacksonville that week. It would have been nice to like burn them. Like, oh, I can't use the easiest one. And hey, look what happened. You know, just one of those situations where it works for you. And that's why you can't always take the popular one in Survivor. It is definitely a different game. I might be getting Survivors. I'm thinking about doing one or two here. We'll see as the weekend goes. But as far as the Circa, what is your opinion on the hotel and what Derek Stevens put out for us, guaranteeing $60 million?
Oh, he's nothing but class. Of course, he's from Detroit, where I'm from, so he's expecting nothing.
Oh, let's just say Midwest.
Midwest, okay.
Bad, right?
No, he's got a Midwest attitude of more laid back, and it really takes care of people. I mean, old time Vegas was being able to go up to the Freddie or what's his name, Binion, Jack Binion, all the Binions. He used to be able to go into the other hotels and really mingle with people, with the people that ran the hotels, people that own the hotels, and that's gone. And Derek's the last of something we'll never see again, where an owner is sitting at the bar willing to talk to anybody that comes up to him and shake their hand and be sincere about meeting you, and it's just nothing you see anywhere else, and it's fantastic. They've done a great job with the hotel. I had to park my car in Garage Mahal. What a great name. But,
right.
They've got good restaurants here, and they do it right. They do it right.
So, have you made any plays yet for week one or any weeks yet? I know you're usually coming in pretty late in this. You're a little different than other people sometimes, but I'm curious if you had something going.
Well, the only thing I did is I took the Rams to win the division at a plus like 400. I just think San Francisco's very close to the end of their run. They may very well do it. I just think that there are a lot of things that can go south on them quick. McCaffrey's been uninjured too long for the beating that he has to take. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I don't know how he can keep taking that beating. So, and they don't win when he's not in the lineup. And Ayuk, he's not locked and loaded for sure, but they've got to pay Purdy next year. And from what I'm hearing, he's had some issues in preseason this year. So I just thought the Rams do have better than a 4-1 shot of winning the division.
All right. Well, the Rams, that'd be nice for me because I better make the playoffs. So I'd be okay. They can win the division. You get the bigger score, but I'll take the playoff one. I'm cool with that. I'm a little scared of the Niners still, but you make some good points. They do have some injuries. The whole IU thing is a distraction. Brock Purdy, it's been very solid, but I feel like that's just great coaching. Kind of what happened to Jordan Love last year. It was great coaching before. I kind of feel the same way. And where that can run out. You saw how bad Kyle Shanahan was with quarterbacks he didn't get along. So I have no dispute with that. Well, man, can't wait to get into the contest with you. It's going to be wonderful. Where could our listeners and viewers get your media and what kind of shows you want?
Well, I did the Bet US show every Wednesday with Steve Fezzik and Jared Smith, and it's at noon Pacific time, and that's already started. And then I do my Tuesday shows with Ron Ace Sports. The Tuesday show is at noon also, I think. That's a different type of show because we basically don't format it week to week. We just have loose content, and it's
shoot from the hip.
Shoot from the hip. We're trying to pick each other's brains and talk unique topics of that week, and we don't really format it for display. I mean, we do it a little bit, but it's mainly a conversation between ourselves. And then I think on Thursdays I'll be on with Ron and Ted somewhere around noon before the Thursday games. We have player interviews sometimes, and we'll talk a little bit on the Thursday game. And if anybody wants to follow, I make whatever I bet available on Wager Talk. And that's about it.
Well, that's awesome. And there are great shows I listen to every week. Make sure you guys, when you're out there, you want to listen to a sharp mind, check out Las Vegas Chris at Las Vegas Chris on his Twitter, all his stuff, and all his wonderful media. Chris, thanks again for coming on.
No problem.
All right, friends. Well,
we were going to talk some college football, but we're out of time. We already talked a little bit in the beginning. We're going to come back tomorrow with Tony George. Derek Stevens is going to come on, and a couple surprise guests as well, to get into more football contests and all the fun that the Circa has to offer. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to listen. If you have any suggestions for the show, we really love to hear from you guys. I love to hear from our audience. So go ahead and shoot us a tweet or email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. We'll be talking soon. Thank you.